But more often than not, the voices and needs of the teachers and health and human services professionals and school communities are marginalized once the election is won. Now, you may remember last February, the LA Times published an article entitled, "The Once Mighty UTLA Loses Its Political Muscle." I don't know if you saw that. It was nothing short of a slime job on UTLA and on its members and on all of us. In that article, an unnamed board member said, and I quote, "Most of us roll our eyes when things come up involving UTLA." Another one compared UTLA to the Three Stooges. They were really laughing it up at our expense. You know where I'm going with this. On May 17th, Bennett Kaiser defeated Luis Sanchez. We were outspent 3-1 by Sanchez and his corporate friends and supporters. We still won. They're not laughing so hard at Beaudry now. For the first time in a very long time, we have them on the defensive. They saw the same thing we did in those election results. When actual parents and community have a voice, and when their votes are actually counted, they reject the kind of corporate-sponsored lunacy and destruction of school communities that the current school board majority has consistently pushed down all of our throats. Which brings me to a very important date in the future of every one of our schools. And that's March 5th, 2013. Thank you. That's the date of the next school board election. That's the next time that the voting public, the real parents and community voices, will render their verdict on the direction of LAUSD. The phony reformers already know that their brand of slash and burn turnaround strategies for schools and their endless blaming and humiliation of teachers doesn't wash with the public. That's why they make almost no effort to win school board elections on the merits of their policies. They simply try to buy them. And in several recent election cycles, they've been able to do just that. You know, it's often been said that there are two sources of political power in this world: organized money and organized people. Our army of volunteers in the Lamont and Kaiser campaigns were mighty enough and focused enough that we were able to overcome the vast piles of cash that the other side spent to defeat them. As they say in politics, our field operation was absolutely magnificent. And for everyone in this room who worked on those campaigns, can you please clap? But even a field operation costs money. And that's why we're going to be kicking off a PACE contribution recruitment drive this fall semester. For those of you who are new, PACE is the Political Action Council of Educators, UTLA's political arm. By law, we cannot spend news money on elections. That's as it should be. Any funds used in school board election races must come from voluntary member contributions to PACE. PACE funds, as a supplement to UTLA's outstanding field operation, are boots on the ground. That's what put the Lamont and Kaiser campaigns over the top. But we spent almost everything we had, and we must begin rebuilding those resources now if we're going to have a shot at taking LAUSD out of the hands of people who are bent on its destruction and putting it back into the hands of people who actually care about urban schools and their communities. As of today, more than 1,400 permanent teachers and health and human services professionals are without a job. They have been unnecessarily laid off. Their positions have been unnecessarily eliminated. LAUSD, and specifically the current school board majority, has decided to gut school programs across this district and to deny students essential counseling and support services. Now, they claim that the remaining 1,400 layoffs, the remaining 1,400 layoffs are unavoidable because of the statewide budget crisis. And on top of that, they take credit for the fact that the original number of layoff notices, which was more than 5,400, well, they act like that reduction, they behave as if they reduced it, and that we should be grateful to them for that reduction. That's nonsense, and it's also dishonest. You know it. Last spring, when the budget picture looked bleak, more than 80% of our members voted reluctantly to approve that furlough agreement. LA educators put the interest of students first. In return for accepting furloughs, more than 4,100 jobs have been saved so far. Every one of those reversals was purchased through the economic sacrifice of our members. There was no district largesse involved. After we signed that agreement, on June 29th, the statewide budget picture for K-12 education unexpectedly improved dramatically. The governor and the legislature essentially put back $4 billion that was going to be cut from the 2011-12 ed budget. Across the state, the need for pink slips disappeared. At the same time, the governor and the legislature also enacted a new law called AB 114. And I have to take a second and thank our affiliates, the California Teachers Association and the California Federation of Teachers, for making sure that AB 114 was adopted. And as some of you already know, but let me make sure it's clear, AB 114 directs that school districts use 2010-11 funding levels for this year in order to maintain school staffing so that teachers aren't laid off. In other words, AB 114 requires districts, including LAUSD, to use the restored monies to reverse rifts and to put our members back to work. The leaders of the Senate and Assembly were very clear in their intent. They wanted to make sure that the schools were stabilized. They knew that, left to their own devices, school boards, especially ones like LAUSD's current school board majority, would try to pocket the money. The governor and the legislature wanted to make sure that every penny of that restored $4 billion would be used at school sites to maintain our members' jobs. AB 114 is a binding state law. It makes very clear that the restored money cannot be set aside to fund pet projects or school giveaways or half-baked teacher accountability schemes. It must be used to restore jobs now. So you ask, why are there still over 1,400 RIFs and over 1,400 educators out of work? Well, sadly, it appears that the current superintendent and the current school board majority, thank you, consider themselves to be above the law. Above the law. Thank you. On July 26th, just a couple weeks ago, on July 26th, the superintendent of LAUSD sent a letter to Governor Brown calling for the repeal of AB 114. In that letter, he stated, and I'm quoting, AB 114 micromanages district finances in a new and dangerous way. Well, he is correct when he says that AB 114 micromanages the use of the restored monies. However, it's important to remember that this new level of micromanagement by Sacramento was made necessary by year after year of profligate spending on non-classroom initiatives and on giveaways that drain money away from the actual instructional programs.